The story is called Trepanation, not to be confused with trepidation. If you don't know what trepanation means, you'll find out. Jenna stared at her brother's dead body. His tattoos used to seem almost animated, moving along with his exaggerated gestures, brought to life by his manic energy. Now, they lay still, just like him. His piercings had all been removed, and the holes left behind hung open like grotesque wounds that had healed over, which is exactly what they were. Jenna's eyes were drawn to the one new hole in her brother's body, the one in the middle of his forehead. The muscular man standing next to her cleared his throat. Are you sure there isn't anyone else that can do this? He asked. Our parents are dead. I'm all he has, said Jenna, then corrected herself. Had. Jenna was 26, but looked a little older, the result of having too much responsibility heaped on her at too young of an age. Well, like I said before, the man said, this isn't really necessary. We have plenty to identify him by. I wanted to see him, Jenna said. I owed him that, and then she buried her face in her hands. The man, Detective Dennis Kowalski, had been a cop for long enough to understand what she was going through. He resisted putting a hand on her shoulder because they had just met. Detective Kowalski, Jenna said quietly, who shot my brother? Kowalski paused. Has no one spoken to you about this? No one explained anything, Jenna said. Like how my brother managed to get shot in the head in a prison where the only people with guns are the guards. Kowalski pointed toward the door. Let's talk in my office. Or better yet, outside. I need a cigarette. Minutes later, in front of the police station, Jenna tapped her foot impatiently while Kowalski exhaled a lungful of smoke with a satisfied sigh. That good, huh? Jenna asked, giving him some serious side-eye. I have a love-hate relationship with these things, Kowalski said. I tell myself every drag could be my last one, so I should enjoy it while I can. Someday, I'll be right. Because someday you'll die. No, because someday I'll quit. Geez, you're a downer. Can we talk about my dead brother now? Of course, I'm sorry. Okay, look, two things. Your brother wasn't shot. He had a hole drilled in his head. What? How did a prison inmate get a hold of a power drill? Well, that's the other thing. He wasn't in prison when it happened. He got early release a month ago. I take it you didn't know that? I didn't, said Jenna, genuinely shocked. I thought he had another 6 months. Why didn't anyone tell me? He's an adult. It would have been up to him to do that. Well, then, where did he die? Who did it? He was found in a rundown motel on Claremont Street. Room 12. No one did it. I mean, no one else. He did it himself. It went septic, and a day later, he was dead. Oh, Jenna said defiantly. No way. Lex was a lot of things, but he wasn't suicidal. He just got out of prison. Why would he kill himself? And why that way? Who knows why people do things, Miss Abrams? Believe it or not, I've seen worse. Look, I know this isn't easy to process, but there was no one else's prints on the drill or anywhere else in the room. The motel surveillance didn't show anyone coming or going. I mean, it only goes back 24 hours, but that was enough. I hate to say it, but this isn't as unusual as you think. He was into piercings, body modification. Maybe he just took it too far. Well, I can't accept that. I'm big on details, and none of this makes any sense at all. Kowalski pulled a business card out of his pocket and handed it to her. I get it. I don't blame you for having questions, he said gently. You can call me anytime, and I'll answer them as best I can. But I've been doing this a long time. We know what we know. The rest we may never figure out. Good luck to you, Miss Abrams. Thank you, Detective, Jenna said numbly, pocketing the card. Enjoy the rest of your cigarette. Oh, you know I will, like it's my last one. Later that night, Jenna slid the contents of a manila envelope onto her dining room table. The last and only belongings of Alexander Timothy Abrams. Whatever they took from him when he went into prison, and whatever he got a hold of afterward that wasn't kept as evidence. Other than a laptop and a cheap cell phone, it was junk. All of it. One item caught her eye. A slip of paper with a YouTube link scribbled on it. It looked familiar. Jenna opened the laptop and entered the info into a browser. The brothers' YouTube channel sprung onto the screen, making her smile. She scrolled through the videos and watched snippets of a few. Paul McCartney woke up with the tune for yesterday in his head, Lex blared loudly and quickly from the screen, way too close to the camera. He continued. The first verse of Across the Universe, music and lyrics popped into John Lennon's head, fully formed. Samuel Taylor Coleridge was smoking opium when the entire poem, Kubla Khan, appeared in his head. Too bad he couldn't remember all of it. The Indian mathematician Ramanujan said that new equations that no one had ever seen before came to him in his dreams. Those people had a special gift. It came naturally to them, but we can all do it. We can get to that place where all ideas come from. She clicked on a new video. The Sioux Indians used to shove pieces of bone under the muscles of their chest and suspend themselves from the ceiling, Lex whispered, his eyes so dilated they were practically black. They believed that it brought them to another plane of existence. I'm going to try a modern version of that tonight. You will be witnesses. In the video, Lex stood up, revealing two enormous hooks protruding from bloody wounds in his chest. Jenna, horrified, suddenly recognized the video. My sister will be here in a minute to help me get set up. This is going to be epic. We're going to find it, you and me, together. I'll tell you what it's like once I'm there. In the background of the video, Jenna could be seen coming down the stairs, gasping at Lex's appearance. There's my lovely assistant, said Lex with a wicked smile. Come on, help me get hoisted up. I'll do the rest. Oh my God, what did you take? Jenna asked, panicking. A very carefully curated blend of medications, Lex said proudly. I've been researching this for a long time. This is going to work. You look terrible. I can't do this. You need help, Alex, Jenna said, pulling out her cell phone and walking away, crying while dialing. Would you get back here and help me? Who are you calling? Who are you calling? Lex bellowed furiously. Don't you dare. I don't need an ambulance. You know what'll happen if someone comes down here and finds all this stuff? Jenna, get off the phone. Jenna! Jenna shut off the video and wiped her eyes with a shaking hand. Then she clicked around on the laptop, looking in the My Videos library and other folders, all of them empty. Reopening YouTube, she spotted a video titled My Secret Hiding Place and clicked on it. This is a great tip. You're going to use this all the time. Perfect hiding spot for small things, Alex said on the screen, unscrewing a wall socket switch plate. No one ever thinks to look in here. Just unscrew the wall plate. Oh, you might want to shut the power first. I didn't, but you might want to. So yeah, look, there's room in here for a thumb drive. Then you just put the plate back on. This is where I hide things I don't want my sister to find. Jenna shut the video, her mind working furiously. She went down into the basement, where Lex shot his videos, and bent down to look at the wall plate Alex had unscrewed. The screws were still loose, so she undid them with her fingers and looked inside. Nothing. Then she pulled out the business card and excitedly dialed the number. Detective Kowalski, this is Jenna Abrams, Alex's sister. I think there might be more evidence in my brother's case. In the motel room. He probably videotaped himself. Maybe there was someone else there before it happened. Maybe he was coerced or... I don't know. Please, call me back. Jenna put the phone in her pocket and seemed to come to a decision. She grabbed her car keys and headed out the door. Jenna pulled up in front of the motel and looked around, thinking that Kowalski had been generous when he called it run down. This place was downright decrepit. She got out of the car, shook off the creeps, and went to what was optimistically called a front desk. The shabbily dressed man behind the grimy counter eyed her up and down. Hi, is 12 available? Jenna asked, trying a little too hard to pretend that she wasn't thoroughly disgusted. Ah, the scene of the crime. The cops cleared out. They didn't send anyone back to clean up yet. That's okay. If it's available, I'll take it. You got a fetish, huh? The man said, leering at her. I hear you. You want 4 hours or overnight? 4 hours is fine. I bet it is. $40, cash. Please. Jenna opened the motel room door with a tissue and braced herself for what she would see. Thankfully, there was no blood. Police barrier tape was strewn all over, and fingerprint powder covered every solid surface, barely disguising the grime beneath. 10 minutes later, she frantically opened the last of the room's wall switch plates and jackpot. She found a thumb drive. Pocketing it, she slipped out of the room, slammed the door, and ran all the way to her car. She drove home way too fast, setting off a couple of speed cameras along the way, and took a long shower. Nursing a cup of coffee, Jenna steeled herself and put the thumb drive in the laptop. A series of videos showed up in the folder. Jenna clicked the first one and took in a sharp breath as Lex appeared on the screen. I'm going to get this done, Alex intoned seriously. I'm going to find it. I'm going to get there. For all of us. I promise you that. I got a tip on a new experiment. I think it's what I've been looking for. Maybe I'll finally do something right. Jenna fast-forwarded the slider, searching for anyone besides Lex on the screen. One video after another, there was only Lex talking to the camera with the filthy motel room in the background. Not having any luck, she decided to let the last of the videos play. It's the oldest known form of surgery, Lex said proudly, his glassy eyes darting in all directions. I just researched this. It's so cool. Neanderthal skulls have been found with holes that healed over. Thousands of them all over the world. That's right. They were drilling holes in their skulls 50,000 years ago. It's called trepanation. It's been done ever since, and it's still being done to this day by those in the know. They used to think they were letting evil spirits out. Other cultures thought it opened the third eye, but now we know that it relieves pressure on the skull and promotes blood flow in the area of the pineal gland. This is what we've all been waiting for, man. This is it. The ultimate body modification. I'm going to get there, man, finally. The source of all creativity, the collective unconscious, it's real, and I'm going to find it. Today's the day. On the screen, Lex held up a battery-powered drill. Jenna paused the video, trembling. Then she impulsively pressed play and held her breath. You have to find just the right spot, and you can't go too deep. I shouldn't feel a thing with what I took, Lex said with a spooky laugh. I'll try to tell you what it's like if I can. I'll do a running commentary. Okay, here it goes. Jenna closed her eyes. The drill revved noisily, drowning out Lex's voice. After a minute or so, the sound of the drill stopped. Lex's voice was hoarse and eerily quiet. Wow, he whispered. It's amazing. I can almost hear. I think I can hear. I don't know. My ears are ringing. I feel okay, but I'm not sure if I achieved full transformation. Maybe it takes some time to set in. I'm going to shut this off now and stash it. I'll make a new video in the morning, and then I'll upload them all at once. Tomorrow, everything will be different. Bye for now. The video ended. Jenna shook all over and started sobbing uncontrollably. She sat there crying for what seemed like hours, but it may only have been a few minutes. Her misery was interrupted by a cell phone's cheery ring. She looked over, and Lex's phone showed that the call was coming from someone named Doc. Jenna sniffled and answered the phone. Hello, she said quietly. Hello, is Alex available? Asked a voice with a vaguely Eastern European accent. This is his sister. Lex is dead. Oh my, I am so sorry to hear that. This is Dr. Goran. I was helping Alex with some of his problems. He had a lot of those, Jenna said wistfully. He admitted so himself, but he was also very bright, very curious. Maybe a little too curious. Perhaps, Dr. Goran said sadly. Oh, what an awful shame. I just spoke to him a few weeks ago, right after his release. He and I had a follow-up appointment tomorrow. If I understand correctly, it was just you and he, wasn't it? Our parents have been gone for a long time, Jenna said, sighing. I did what I could for him, but I guess it wasn't enough. I know he blames me for his time in jail. No, he blamed himself. He spoke very highly of you. Not highly enough to let me know that he got out. He was embarrassed. He wanted to get himself straight before he saw you. Seems he was more interested in finding another plane of existence. He had some fascinating views about Sioux Indians and Neanderthals. It's Jenna, isn't it? Dr. Goran asked gently. Yes. Jenna, would you like to make an appointment to come see me? You may need someone to talk to, and I think I might be able to give you some insight into your brother. Since he unfortunately passed, doctor-patient confidentiality no longer applies. I think you'll learn things about him that will surprise you in a good way. I can tell you this. He loved you and respected you, more than he could say to your face. Thank you, Doctor, Jenna said, tearing up. Maybe I'll call you. I'll think about it. Thank you. Jenna walked up to the address she had on her phone, mildly surprised to see that it was a private house, not an office complex. She was about to ring the bell when the door opened and Dr. Goran appeared with a big smile. He was older than she thought he'd be, graying at the temples, but a youthful twinkle in his eyes. Hello, Jenna. Welcome to my humble home office. Please, come in. Thank you, Doctor, Jenna said, stepping inside as he closed the door behind her. Through here, he said as they made their way toward a small room in the back of the house. Please, make yourself comfortable, he continued, gesturing towards a vinyl reclining chair. Can I offer you anything? A bottle of water, perhaps? That would be great, thank you. Dr. Goran hurried into the next room. Jenna sat down and looked around. Not that there was much to see, other than another vinyl chair, an antique trunk, and a large plant. Is that a ficus? Jenna called out. Yes, Dr. Goran said, returning with 2 water bottles, handing one to Jenna. It's a weeping fig tree. I'm sure it's heard a lot to weep about in here, Jenna said, opening the bottle and spilling a little. I'm so sorry. I'm a little off kilter. Could I trouble you for a paper towel and napkin? Of course, completely understandable, Dr. Goran said, leaving the room once again and returning quickly with a paper towel. My goodness, you must have been thirsty, he said, trading her now empty bottle for the paper towel. Sometimes I forget to stay hydrated. Bad habit, she said, blotting her lap in the chair. Dr. Goran took the paper towel and threw it and the bottle in a nearby trash can, then sat in the other chair. So, let's talk about your brother Alex. Yes, let's, please. I feel like I hardly knew him, even though we grew up together and I was his legal guardian until he turned 18. Yes, he spoke of your parents' death. Tragic. How many patients have you had whose father shot their mother and then themselves? 2, so far. Do you hold hatred in your heart towards your father, Jenna, for what he did? Sometimes. Then I remember that he was troubled. He was indeed very troubled. You say that like you knew him, Jenna said, a realization dawning. Wait, did you treat my father? I did, said Dr. Goran, staring into the distance. He was very much like your brother, very eager to explore new treatments. So I tried something experimental involving hypnotism. It was meant to help him destroy the things inside himself that tormented him. He didn't understand. He didn't listen. He externalized those things and ended up projecting them onto your mother. Once he made that connection, what eventually happened was all but inevitable. Jenna couldn't speak. She could barely even breathe. Alex didn't listen either, Dr. Goran continued. He had tried suspensions and various combinations of drugs, but nothing satisfied his curiosity. So a week ago, I recommended trepanation, a lost ancient art that is much misunderstood today. Once he heard about it, he was off and running. I wanted to do it for him here under proper medical conditions, but he was so reckless. He did it himself in the least sanitary conditions possible. He didn't listen to any of the follow-up procedures I recommended, cleanings, emergency room visits. So once again, his death was eminently predictable. Dr. Goran looked directly into Jenna's eyes, which were wild with panic. But I will not make that mistake again, he said coldly, and pulled a battery-powered drill out of the antique trunk. If you are wondering what was in the water you drank, it was a muscle relaxant, a mild paralytic, and an anesthetic. You shouldn't feel a thing. He approached her, holding the drill. Your family are all very much in touch with powers beyond themselves. It is in your blood. This is your destiny. Ultimately, you will thank me for it. I am envious of the things you will see and hear. He revved the drill noisily to life and lowered it towards Jenna's forehead. In one swift motion, Jenna leaped out of the chair, pulled the drill from the surprised doctor's hand, and pushed him onto his back, her knee against his throat. 10 years of self-defense class finally paid off, she shouted triumphantly. Now, you're going to tell the police everything you just told me. Maybe you'll get early release many years from now, like my brother did. Oh, and I hope the drug cocktail that was in the water doesn't hurt your ficus plant. It needed hydration too. Dr. Goran's hands shot towards Jenna's throat and squeezed tight. Fighting through the pain, she pressed the drill against his left shoulder and squeezed the trigger. He screamed and released his left hand, but his right hand tightened around her throat. Fighting for breath, she placed the drill against his forehead. You want to discover a mystical place where all art comes from? Find it yourself, she screamed, pulling the trigger and grinding away at the skin and bone at the front of the doctor's skull. His hand fell away from her throat. She pulled back the drill, silencing it, and threw herself off of him, coughing and wheezing. His voice was thin and raspy as he looked straight ahead and murmured, Can you hear it? Can you hear it? It's beautiful. Jenna heard her name being bellowed from elsewhere in the house. In here, she said weakly, still recovering. Kowalski burst in, his gun drawn. You okay? He asked her, bewildered. What the hell happened in here? He attacked me, tried to drug me. I defended myself. Took you long enough to get here. Give me a break. You're lucky I showed up at all. What made you think you would need me anyway? Kowalski asked, helping her stand up. He knew things he shouldn't have. He said on the phone that he last saw my brother a few weeks ago. But he knew about Lex's interest in Neanderthals, which Lex only found out about days before he died. So I figured he must have been at the motel at some point. Lex just didn't record while he was there. Like I said, I'm big on details. Damn skippy you are. You ever consider going to law enforcement? Never. Good. Kowalski looked at her with concern in his eyes. You know, you did all right, kid. At least I think you did. I still barely know what's going on. But I do know that he needs an ambulance, you need to come down to the station, and I need a cigarette, Kowalski said, pulling one out of a pack. Last one, right? Jenna said teasingly. Kowalski looked at the doctor lying on the floor. You know what? Maybe I had my last one already, he said, putting the cigarette back. I need another cigarette like I need a hole in the head. Kowalski, you ever consider going to stand-up comedy? Never. Good, Jenna said as she rubbed her hand along her neck. I'll probably have a nasty bruise, she said, sighing. Yeah, but look at the other guy, Kowalski said. Hey, I'm glad you're okay. But do me a favor. Try not to drill any holes in anyone's head if you can help it, okay? I got a lot of paperwork to do. I'll try, Jenna said, laughing. On the floor behind them, Dr. Goran stared straight up at the ceiling, muttering to himself with a combination of pleasure and confusion on his face. It's so beautiful.